Hi, it's Rocky, and today is May 1st, and I'm playing Bladi's Basics for the first time. So I may not know what I'm doing. One thing I've always liked about this game is it seems like the creator had a kind of a twisted sense of humor, kind of like I do. And it just seems overall a really hilarious game. I found out about Bladi's Basics from Walmart, actually, I think, because it was Bladi's Basics toys. And I picked it up and I showed it to my boyfriend, and we were like, what the hell is this? So then I started to look up Bladi's Basics, and I also took a picture of the toy so I wouldn't forget. And I'm so happy that I looked it up because it seems like a lot of fun. To give an update on the album thing, I'm only into the third track as far as adding like percussion and drums and stuff like that, and I'm only working with the demos. So basically I'm establishing what the percussion will sound like on the studio ones by working on the demos. So I still have a long way to go. And that kind of bothers me because a lot of the songs I wrote are relevant to issues that are going on now. And more than likely, you know, what's relevant now will be relevant a month from now. And more than likely, when I release it next year, that, you know, it will still be relevant. Or if I release it this year, if I get lucky enough to do so, more than likely, it will still be relevant. And I actually realized that since I struggle with math, I need to work on preparing for the next math class, which I have been doing because I've been trying to work on math by like an hourly basis. And as for the stuff I already know, I may do like a slight review. But the stuff that I already know and understand, I'm trying to not focus on that as much because that's only going to slow me down. I'm trying to focus on like new stuff that I may not know, that I may find challenging. And I know I'm taking an introduction to statistics class next in the math department as far as math goes. But when it comes to statistics, there's these equations that you have to memorize, and they're kind of complicated, so that seems like another good area to work on. But the main thing is, I know I need to spend some of the time working on other things. Like I need to work on homework, I need to work on studying for tests, because right now the semester is still in session and the classes are online, which makes things a lot easier for me as far as working on the album goes. But I still need to spend some time doing stuff like that, and doing stuff like preparing for math for the next math class, you know, getting ready for statistics, you know. And I recently learned that I'm an auditory learner, so I have been listening to like a lot of podcasts, lectures on YouTube, and so on and so forth, which really helps a lot with that. You see, the issue that I need to address is that I have a lot of like angst in regards to my album. I'm like, want to release it overnight. I want to release it now. But the reason why I can't, it just doesn't work like that, because it's still in production. If I'm still in production, you can't release something early, you know, being in production still. Like if you're working on a movie, you can't release the movie while it's still in production, because that just doesn't make sense. You just can't do that. It just doesn't work like that. And the album's still in the production phase, so I can't like just release it. And I was thinking, like, how do I address this issue? Because it causes like a lot of anxiety and a little bit of angst, and it causes some stress, and it causes some nerves, you know. And I also think of like all the things that could happen that could get in the way of the production of the album, and potentially you know, I mean there are some major obstacles that could potentially arise and get in the way of it. and just halt production altogether, especially with, I mean, yeah, with the, some of the obstacles are, I need to be in a house because I cannot be dealing with like super tight noise restrictions. That's the first thing. So that's why I work on it as diligently as I do. That's like one of the main reasons why it's so like important that I get it done, because I'm not going to be living at my parents' house forever, you know, and at a house there's not as much like noise restrictions, like, you know, in an apartment it's more tight as far as the noise restrictions go, and that would just like not fly. Like if I wanted to sing, it just wouldn't fly, and I'd have to pay for like a studio time or something like that, which I can't afford, or some other option which I probably would not be able to afford anyways. So I need to do it now while I'm still here. So, but that's not really, you know, that you know, that's unlikely to get in the way. But what also could happen is that, you know, things could just, you know, sometimes these things happen that you never think of. Like, never in my wildest dreams did I think we would be having a pandemic with the corona thing. So, like, sometimes things just happen and you cannot control it. And yeah, and another thing is, so it's like you know, you just don't see it coming, but it comes, you know. There are several events that could happen that you just don't see coming, but they come, and then, you know, it could halt my production, which I don't want anything to be halting my production, because right now that's pretty important to me right now, that I really want to get this done. Okay, to address this problem so that I focus on preparing for math more, I am going to do the following. I have one demo that I believe that I can release early without like regretting it. And this song is called The Beast Arrives, which is part of the overall story, because this is a concept album, okay? There is a storyline going on here in this album that I'm about ready to release. But yeah, the reason why I mean, I can release The Beast Arrives early because there isn't really much to that song, and it's kind of like an instrumental, and I wouldn't really like to call it a filler track because it is part of the story, but it's just an extra track that is a part of the story and needed to be there for the sake of the story. And it's also pretty heavy too. So I want to actually go ahead and release that demo early. And the thing is, I need to have, the Beast is actually a character in my story. He's kind of he's like a sort of like a barbarian character. So I actually need to have the illustrations ready before then. You know, I'm not releasing anything until I have the illustrations ready. So once I have the illustrations for that character ready to complement the video, I can actually release that early. And that'd be like, for me, that's some satisfaction, that's some like gratification there. It's like, okay, at least I put that out, which is good, because I'm also you know, anybody who is following me on Instagram, etc., YouTube, etc., that's something for you to look forward to. So that's actually a good thing that I do that. And then I was also thinking about this. I was thinking about maybe once a week putting in acoustic version of a song I have together. Just like once a week, because I don't want to be spending way too much time with it and have it take away from working on my album, which is more important. But I'm thinking like releasing an acoustic sort of an unplugged version of each song going down the line. You know, like each week, like kind of like weekly. And there are some issues with that. My room, bad lighting. It's usually the lighting's not good. My room has like stuff in it. It's usually not very good for making videos like that. But Zoom has this feature, the Zoom app that everyone's using to like video chat and do online classrooms and stuff, and I've been using it a lot. Like with working at home, I've been using Zoom a lot, and for classrooms and stuff like that, you know, when I have to attend lectures, they actually have this feature in Zoom where you can use like a background. I believe TikTok has this feature too called green screen, and I actually do have a green screen. It's pretty beat up, and actually my mom has been using it for some reason. Not for what you think, for taking photographs of, just taking like, you know, I think she's been using it for like photography. I think one time she actually used my green screen as like a drape or something to block the light. I'm not kidding. So it's pretty beat up, but I do have a green screen. But the problem is I don't know how I'm going to put the green screen up behind me, because I really have nothing to hang the green screen off of. It's like I have a green screen that's really beat up and has holes in it and everything, but like, so, but I noticed with the Zoom feature where you can have the background, you don't have to have a green screen to use it. So, and, you know, and even if your system requirements don't, you know, my MacBook does not meet the system requirements for it, and my MacBook Pro, I doubt if my MacBook Pro does too, but you can actually still use the feature even if you don't have the system requirements. And maybe, you know, the video there'll just be a lot of glitches with it, like, you know, maybe half of your body will be showing up and maybe the other half will be partially showing the background. But I was thinking maybe I can experiment with that a little bit, because that is, you know, that is a way to do some mediocre video production without, you know, light is no longer an issue if you're using a background. Not as much of an issue, let's just say. It's not that it's no longer an issue. As long as it's just during the day and the light is shining in my room, it should be okay. But I have to basically experiment with that. And also, I realized, because I realized that like just using a drum machine alone doesn't cut it. And I realized that one of my songs actually needed like alternative percussion instruments. Like, I was using, in the demo when I put it together, I was using a shaker. I have a shaker. It's like, I'm not sure what it's called, but it's just like a shaker instrument. It's like one of those things that you shake and it has like, little beads in it. And I was just using that because I have like 3 of those that I bought when I was like a little... No, I didn't buy them. My parents bought them when I was like a little kid. And so I was just using those, and it seemed like going in the right direction. But I realized I really actually more so need a tambourine. So I need to order a tambourine from Amazon as soon as possible. And I'm thinking I may put the acoustic videos together when I get a tambourine, because I'm thinking of editing in a tambourine as percussion on the acoustic videos. And I know in some instances a tambourine will sound much better than a shaker in some instances. So, and in some instances it makes a lot more sense to use a tambourine than a shaker instrument. So, and that kind of stuff just works fine for like acoustic stuff. So, like if I'm playing acoustic guitar, those instruments are cool. So that's what I'm thinking of doing, but I'm thinking it may not start until I figure everything out and get tambourine to add into it, and that'll make me feel a lot better. But I may not even bother with percussion at all. I may decide that, hey, you know, maybe that just leave it alone and just have like acoustics only, which is fine. You know, that should be fine, because I just am doing this for myself so that I have something out there of the song on the internet, so that I am not having all this like kind of angst about releasing the album, like, you know, like wanting to, like this thing about wanting to release what I'm doing overnight when it's still in production, because that's not possible. So it's just something to pass the time, if you know what I mean, while it's still in production. While the album's still in production, this would be just something I'm doing to pass the time. Plus, if you were a follower of mine, it gives you something to look forward to every week, as well as along with these videos. So I may or may not do that. I have to see how things actually work out, but that's something I want to do. I'm definitely interested in doing that. Anyhow, I think you've heard enough about me. I don't want to make this video just me talking about myself the whole time. I'm going to switch the subject, and I'm going to talk about Fiona Apple, because my boyfriend is a Fiona Apple fan, and he's been a fan of hers since she released that song Criminal. I think it was in the 90s. I was born in 97, so I probably missed it, but yeah. She released this album that is getting a lot of critical acclaim, and it's just like, it seems like a really great album. Like, I'm gonna make sure that I listen to that as soon as I get the chance, but it will definitely be like this week. Like, I really want to listen to it this week. It seems like it's a great album, and that's what I've heard. And I watched some of her interviews, and yeah, a lot of people are saying that the songs kind of resonate with what we're going through during these times. So yeah, check out her album. Like, I'll make sure that I check it out as soon as I can, like sometime this week. Like, and yeah, the song that I keep hearing about on it is Fetch the Bolt Cutters, but I'm gonna listen to that, and I encourage everybody else to go check it out as well. So, on to another subject. A big documentary that I keep hearing everybody talk about is Tiger King on Netflix, which I hadn't seen it yet, and that's usually what I say about most big films that everybody is talking about. I usually am always like, I hadn't seen it yet. Yeah, so the last time I saw something on Netflix was Motley Crue The Dirt, because I had to watch The Dirt, because like, I'm a huge Motley Crue fan, so I had to see that. So I logged into my boyfriend's Netflix account. I would have already seen Tiger King if I had a Netflix account that I maintained on a regular basis, but I don't, because it costs money. I try to cut expenses wherever I can, and my boyfriend had to stop paying for Netflix as well, because we are in tough times, so we have to like cut off unnecessary expenses wherever possible. You know, we have to pick and choose, basically, and Netflix just happens to not fall under the category of expenses that I choose to keep. If I had a lot of money, I would definitely have a Netflix account that I maintain on a regular basis, but what I'd have to do is I'd have to create a Netflix account and, you know, do maybe like either a free trial or pay pay the fee one time and cancel it or something like that to watch Tiger King. That's the main reason why I hadn't watched it. But I have seen interviews. I have heard others talk about it. I've seen YouTube videos of people kind of like giving an overview of what Tiger King is about. I do know that his other name is Joe Exotic. I do know that he's a zookeeper. I do know that supposedly, I guess he went to jail. Yeah, he's in jail right now. I do know that. So I know some of like the basic stuff. I do know. I know I've heard of Carol Baskin. Like, I know some of the, like, just some of the characters and some of what it's about. And I know it's just kind of like documenting people's lives that own tigers or big cats. I do know that. But I'm not going to know specifics because I hadn't seen it. So I'm not going to know, like, real specific details. Not going to know. And actually, the strange thing is, tigers are, like, one of my favorite animals. And tigers, if you were to ask my dad what his favorite animal is, tigers are his favorite animal, too. Like, I have a lot of stuff with just, like, animal print on it, and I usually will have stuff with, like, leopard print or tiger print on it. Like, I have a blanket with tiger print on it, and some other stuff, and, like, yeah, so tigers have always been a part of my life, so that does bring up some, something in my something in my mind comes up when I hear that, because I think of all how I've grown up with tiger stuff, because my dad really likes tigers. That's his favorite animal. So I've grown up with tiger stuffed animals and stuff like that, and you know, just anything tiger, I kind of grown up with it. My dad's not like really obsessed with tigers. My dad's not like, you know, we're not like, you know, yeah, of course, not like obsessed. It's just like one of our favorite animals, and we just think they're pretty cool animals. That's it. But yeah, I will see Tiger King eventually. I don't know when, but I think I'll see it eventually. I also thought what would make this vlog more interesting is if I talk about the classes that I'm currently enrolled in. There's a lot of classes that I've taken, but right now I'm currently enrolled in 2 classes that kind of cover the psychological side of learning. And I'm in a film class, and I'm in... what else? Oh yeah, geology. So, I love the psychological learning classes, like the classes that cover the psychological side of learning, like growth mindset versus fixed mindset, learning preferences, and stuff like that, because it always gives me an opportunity to reflect on what I've done or to improve. And this is like, I've taken like this is like my 5th and 6th one, or my 4th and 5th one. I've taken a few of those already, but I'm in those classes again partly because A, I need the units. B, I had a terrible experience in my math class last semester. It was like the worst experience I've had in a math class for the most part. Like, in some aspects it was even worse than my high school math classes and the prior math class that I had taken when I first enrolled in college. Like, The reason why, because it was so hard to keep up with the class, and there was so much work, and a counselor that I trusted recommended it to me, and like I trusted her, and I trusted her kind of blindly, and I didn't really look into it that much. So I learned my lesson. I will never enroll in another class again without doing intensive research if I'm feeling apprehensive about the class for some reason, especially when it comes to math. And yeah, there was a lot of good things that came out of it, though. I mean, there was pros and cons to it. There was a lot of benefits to it. I almost failed the class. I barely passed it, but I did improve in math a lot. So another one of these classes that I'm taking, one of these learning psychology classes, like this is another course that covers growth mindset versus fixed mindset and learning preferences, etc., etc. I learned that I'm an auditory learner, which I didn't know before, despite having taken this similar courses like two times in a row. I've taken similar courses at the beginning of my college career, and I didn't know I was an auditory learner. Can you believe that? Yeah. So I realize that I'm an auditory learner now, which really, it would explain why I like listening to podcasts and YouTube videos about math, as well as I also scored high in the visual department, so visual is very important for me. But usually, sometimes what's most effective is both lecture and seeing the information on the board or seeing pictures. So in this second one that I'm taking this semester that I'm currently enrolled in, we are looking at different parts of our brain, and we have different areas of our brain. So we have like spatial, logical, musical intelligence, and linguistical intelligence, interpersonal intelligence, etc., etc. And I took this survey, and I already knew this. Like, I didn't need the survey to tell me this, because I already knew that I had a weakness with the spatial compartment and the math department. Like, I don't understand the world in a mathematical sense. Charts and graphs usually don't help me understand information. It usually just confuses me. But recently, with the pandemic, I now have a better understanding of what a bell curve is, and that actually does help me better understand. But this was like the only exception, so, but the main thing is I learned is that we're not, our intelligence is not fixed. We can improve in certain areas that we're weak in, and actually those with like learning disability are gifted in we are gifted in like some areas, and will be so gifted that there will be a weakness in another area, and that is my case, because I am gifted with like the musical area, and people have complimented me on my art and my writing, and anything that falls under humanities or anything that falls under like even the interpersonal stuff, all that other stuff. I've usually, like stuff like that, I've been gifted in, but I'm so gifted in that department that I actually have a weakness in the spatial department and in the math department, and anything that has to do with like numbers and like the logical processing of data and all of that, I'm not so much. And weakness, and I'm lacking this balance So I can improve in that, and that's the good thing. I can improve. And I didn't really recognize it, wasn't consciously aware of it until now. I just didn't really see it that well until now. And actually, I do remember another student talking to me about this, but now I'm actually seeing it in a different way. I'm seeing a much bigger picture now than what I was then. I mean, this is not the first time this concept has been introduced to me, but now I'm seeing a much bigger picture as to why I struggle with mathematics. So I have to spend a lot of time with math, and I really have to think about how I change my thinking and how to develop mathematical thinking, how to see the world in a mathematical sense, and how to understand charts and graphs better if I don't already. And I also think I have this thing called dyscalculia, where it's like dyslexia but numbers, and it's not the same thing as dyslexia, by the way. But there's some similarities in the struggles. So, and it's hard to get a diagnosis for dyscalculia, but I think I do have some version of it, because all my life I've really struggled with mathematics. So, and it's held me back in certain areas of life, believe it or not. So it's really tragic. But it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be a tragedy, because I'm improving, and I'm improving every day. I'm learning something new every day. I've improved dramatically after this one math class that I had a really bad experience with. So it can, it's not going to be a problem forever. Definitely not. And I'm actually planning on uploading an animated story time in the future about my experience in math class. And I'm sure that will be pretty entertaining and pretty informative. And I'm also, since I get a lot of algebra concepts I actually understand, so I'm actually maybe planning on uploading like a goofy math video where I attempt to teach algebra or some algebra concepts, basically. And I'm planning on having it be pretty funny and pretty hilarious, and just kind of, like almost like a parody video, but it's like a parody of how somebody would teach math. It would be funny. I want it to be funny. I want it to be hilarious. I want it to be out of the ordinary, because I believe for people like me who just do not have a natural gift for math, if you will, we need that. We need to have our teachers and professors all acknowledge that teaching math does not mean that math has to be dry. And to get us interested and to get us more engaged with the subject, please use things like humor, because trust me, it does help your students. And I know a lot of professors do not use humor, and they're very monotone and dry. So that would help if you can use humor to teach stuff like that. Whether or not you're a professor, if you try to teach anybody a subject like that, or if you know a professor, or you know somebody who teaches this stuff. One of the last topics that I'm going to cover in this video is my film classes, and the film class that I'm currently taking. And in the film class I'm currently taking, we are looking at this film right now called Bicycle Thieves, and it's a part of this movement called neo-realism, also known as the Italian neo-realism movement. And basically, so going back in history, going back to Mussolini in Italy, basically, from what I understand, Italy was making movies in the Hollywood film style when Mussolini was in power, but then when Mussolini wasn't in power anymore, they were making films that were rather not based on the, kind of like anti-Hollywood approach where it was more realistic. And yeah, that's pretty cool. So, Bicycle Thieves, I will admit I had a hard time following it, but that's okay. It might be because I need to know a little bit more about the context, so that's why I'm watching a lot of videos on YouTube where other people are analyzing it, because I gotta do a paper on Bicycle Thieves. So, and that does seem very interesting, and I heard that neorealism is one of the most influential film movements, and that does seem to ring true, because even my boyfriend, who is a director, his movie A Wandering Mind and the God Machine does seem to have some neorealism elements, because there is non-professional actors, there is stuff that is based on real life events, and kind of, key parts of the neorealism movement. I can even see it in my boyfriend's film, so that helps me relate to it a lot more if I can, think of, I can immediately make a strong connection. It's a very strong and personal connection. I can immediately make that connection. And before that, we watched another film that we watched was Charlie Chaplin's City Lights, which I did a whole paper on. I learned a lot more about Charlie Chaplin. I actually really identify with Charlie Chaplin a lot more than I thought I did. I actually hardly knew who he was at first, but now I know that that I really can identify with Chaplin now, and people that I know, I can identify them with Charlie Chaplin, what he was about. So yeah, it's definitely worth learning a lot more about Charlie Chaplin if you hadn't taken the time. He isn't just a silent film actor. No. He is much more than that. You need to actually, you'll be amazed what you learn. You'll be amazed. So take the time. Actually take the time out. Yeah, try to take the time out to learn more about him. That's just what I recommend. Yeah, so film is very interesting. I've been taking the classes as electives, but it's actually been helping me a lot in regards to my plans here on YouTube and what I plan on doing in the future. It's even helped me with my music. It's helped me dramatically improve my storytelling aspects. And of course, storytelling is also very musical because you have parts that are dynamic. So that's actually helped me improve with my music, which is pretty cool, and my storytelling stuff, and helped me improve with storytelling in my upcoming animation plans. Because I have storyboards for animation pieces for here on YouTube that I hadn't even released yet, but they're just in storyboard form sitting on my computer. Yes. So yeah, that's what's going on with my current film class. I did take another film class in 2019, and we saw some movies. The one movie that really stood out to me in the film class from last semester, because I remember the films by scenes and characters, but I don't remember the names off the top of my head. But I do remember one film, and that was Road to Perdition. That is an excellent film. That one really stood out to me because you just, you feel, it's a very emotional film. It is a film about gangsters, but it's a very, very emotional film. It is not your ordinary film about gangsters. It's just something different about it that you wouldn't. It's something different about it because It's about, a family and there's two little boys, and they're completely innocent to his father being involved with the gangster life that's going on in the 30s, and they're completely innocent to it. And then the young boy gets very curious and sees what his father does and ends up getting, he ends up getting drawn into it. And you see a lot of people, including, okay, I'm not going to spoil it, but yeah, I'm probably spoiling it. But anyhow, great film. Sorry, I probably spoiled it. But, yeah, great film to watch. And actually, part of the reason why I'm taking film classes is I actually noticed it's an area that I've had a bit of a sort of like a void in. Like, I, can't really talk about movies with people because I grew up kind of sheltered, and I didn't see a whole lot of movies growing up. I just didn't, because I was kind of sheltered, and I didn't go to movie theaters a whole lot growing up, especially like in high school. That's when I really stopped seeing movies at the movie theaters, because my parents just couldn't afford it anymore. They were just like, no, we can't afford this. And then I started taking on the same position even after being employed, saying that I can't afford it even after having employment. I actually followed in those footsteps. I was like, just see the movie when it goes on DVD or when it goes on streaming, and I end up never pursuing it, so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to see a lot of movies while I'm working out on my exercise bike. That's usually a good amount of downtime to do that, so that's what I'm trying to do now. And I have seen more movies since I've started doing that. Last year I have seen a lot more movies, and the film classes have helped me to understand the analytical side of film more, and the technical side and everything else, because there's a lot of movies that I didn't understand growing up. There's a lot of movies that I watched growing up that I just did not understand at all, but now with these film classes I'm starting to really understand them. That will help me talk about film with people. And I've done like film analysis stuff, and I've started to turn that around, because I noticed I'd be really good with music, but I would not be like familiar with film hardly at all. And it's still kind of that way, sadly, because I didn't watch a lot of stuff growing up because I was sheltered. I watched Rick and Morty, though. I was able to watch Rick and Morty, but I was sheltered in a sense that my parents did not have the extra income to take me to the movie theater, didn't have the extra income for DVDs at a certain point. Now, we had the extra income at one point, but then when I was in high school, we stopped having that. Things were a little tight, and we had to pick and choose, and I did choose to go to music school, so I chose music over movies, because that income that could have... It also was partly because I went to music school and we were putting all our income towards that, and I chose music over film. It was ultimately partly because I chose music over movies. I chose to devote my time to that, so that's another reason why. So there's probably more than one reason here, and, yeah, so, and I still haven't gone to movie theaters, I still really haven't been doing that as much. I still hadn't, like, since high school, so, yeah, but now I'm starting to be a little bit more informed than I used to be, and it's cool to take the classes, because I will actually end up knowing something that maybe somebody else doesn't, having taken film classes, which is pretty cool to know a little more than maybe then maybe the person that I'm talking to would know that maybe just watches movies on a casual basis. So it's pretty cool to have the extra information, the extra knowledge, you know.
Basics in education and learning. That's me.
The last thing I'm gonna say is that my friend requested a tutorial on how I animate and just how I do the whole process, and it's very complicated and very complex. So sometime in the future I will be uploading like a tutorial, a how-to video on how I do that whole process, but I don't know specifically when, because oftentimes it's hard to find the time to do stuff like this. I might maybe work on one part of it each day and then just string it together in editing software. I don't know how I'm going to go about it yet, but one day that will be on my channel. A how-to tutorial on basic animation will be on my channel eventually one day. I don't know specifically when. It could be a few months from now. It could be a month from now. It could be 6 months from now. I don't really know. I don't really know. But it seems like a good way to go about it would be just to kind of like work on it gradually, which seems to make sense. It doesn't seem to do much harm to work on stuff gradually, because my main core focus right now is the music album. I'm obviously, you know, that's a priority, and I'm obviously wanting to get that out. So yeah, that's one of the biggest priorities. I mean, also, but more so, my education is a bigger priority. Obviously, I gotta get my degree and transfer already. I gotta do that as well. But with the online learning, a lot of stuff has changed, and it's taking me a little bit of time to process and adjust to that change, especially when it comes to math classes. I don't know what to expect with online instruction. I think as long as there's a Zoom meeting, because I'm an auditory learner and there is some kind of lecture portion, I actually might be okay. I could be okay, because my dad can help with math also. So my dad is much better at math than me, and he could help, and so that's all good things. I know some people who can help me with math, so that, you know, I might be fine in an online math class. I might be totally fine, you know. So I'll just have to work that one out and see. I mean, in fall they might be coming back on campus, but they may not. I keep hearing contradictory stuff, so I really don't know. But anyhow, that will be it for today.